There is a moment in every man's life when the silence becomes deafening, when the noise of the world fades and all that's left is the voice inside, a whisper at first, then a roar. That voice does not ask questions, it makes demands. It says enough. Enough of the delay, enough of the excuses, enough of the waiting room called someday. Because deep in your soul, whether you admit it or not, you know the truth. You are one decision away from a new life. Not 1,000 steps, not 10 years, not another round of advice from people who never built what you dream of building. Just one decision, one moment of absolute clarity. The kind of moment that forges kings, builds empires, and redefines destinies. This is the same decision Carnegie made when he chose to rise from a poor immigrant boy to the titan of industry. It is the same moment when Henry Ford stopped asking permission and decided to build a machine the world said was impossible. It's the decision Walt Disney made when he was told he lacked imagination, yet still built a kingdom out of a mouse. You don't need more time. You need a defining point. And that defining point is now. Your life is not waiting for some grand sign from the universe. Your life is waiting on you to step into the arena and finally say, I'm done with who I've been. I'm ready to become who I was born to be. That is the seed. That is the spark. That is the ignition point of transformation. One decision, and the weight of your entire future hangs in its balance. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. You are exactly where you are because of the decisions you've tolerated, delayed, or denied. And you will stay there until your standards rise above your circumstances. Comfort has never built anything worth remembering. Comfort is where dreams go to rot. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you finally decided? Not halfway, not with a foot in the old life and a toe in the new, but with everything, every ounce of blood, every drop of fire in your soul, because history only remembers those who decide. Decide that you're no longer going to live at 40% of your potential. Decide that your past does not have the right to dictate your future. Decide that enough is enough. You see, the man who wins isn't always the one who had the best start. More often, it's the man who made a decision so loud that the universe had no choice but to move. Decision is the gatekeeper of destiny. Until you decide, your gifts remain buried. Your strength stays dormant. Your power lies beneath the surface like a lion sleeping in a cage, waiting for the roar to wake it up. Don't tell me you need motivation. What you need is to decide. Don't tell me the odds are against you. What you need is to decide. Don't tell me you're waiting for the right time. The right time is forged by fire. It's not found in calendars or stars or in the permission of others. It's found in conviction. And when that decision is made, not casually, not softly, but with your whole chest, with fire in your voice and thunder in your steps, then the world begins to shift. Because you've told life, I'm no longer asking, I'm commanding. That is the language the universe understands. Edison made that decision when he failed 10,000 times and said, I have not failed. I've found 10,000 ways that won't work. That wasn't hope. That was a decision, a refusal to back down, a relentless commitment to see it through. The greatest men in history were not born great. They decided to become great. They were not waiting for a sign. They were too busy becoming the sign. This world does not need more talkers. It needs doers. It needs men and women who are tired of mediocrity, tired of blending in, tired of scrolling through the highlight reels of other people's lives, and finally ready to write their own legend. Do not underestimate the power of a single, unwavering decision. Because every empire, every revolution, every miracle began with one. The battlefield of life is not fought with fists, it is fought in the mind. And that battlefield is relentless. It does not rest. It does not wait for you to feel ready. It challenges you every day with whispers of doubt, reminders of your failures, shadows of your past. But what separates the powerful from the passive, the lion from the lamb, is what you choose to believe in those moments. Because belief is not just a thought. Belief is a weapon. The man who believes he can bend reality to his will walks differently. He speaks with a tone that shakes rooms. He carries himself like a king long before he ever wears the crown. And the irony? The world eventually catches up to his belief. Every skyscraper began as a belief. Every invention, every masterpiece, every revolution was born first in the invisible, inside someone who refused to let doubt be louder than vision. The mind is either a prison or a portal, and you decide which one you step into every morning. You don't become successful when you make $1 million. You become successful the moment you decide to think like someone who's already earned it. That's why mindset isn't a motivational buzzword. It is the forge in which warriors are built. The mind does not care about your circumstances. The mind responds only to what you demand of it. You can be surrounded by poverty and still cultivate wealth. You can be drowning in failure and still choose growth. You can be laughed at, underestimated, written off, and still decide to rise anyway. You know who did that? Lincoln. A man born into a log cabin, whose failures outnumbered most men's attempts. He lost elections, faced depression, lived in obscurity, but he made a decision, again and again, to rise, to keep climbing, until history had no choice but to remember his name. You must learn to hold the vision even when the world holds the doubt. And clarity is your sword in the fog. Because a confused mind hesitates, and hesitation is the silent killer of greatness. Clarity is not knowing every step, it's knowing the destination so clearly that nothing can shake you from it. The how bends to the why every single time. People waste years asking how do I build this? How do I start that? How do I become him? But the man of clarity doesn't start with how. He starts with who. Who must I become to create this? Who do I need to be when no one's watching? The clearer you are about your destination, the more brutal you can become about eliminating distractions. Clarity creates focus, and focus creates force, and force moves mountains. When you stop trying to please the crowd and start trying to please the future version of you, your life begins to compound. When you wake up not asking, what do I feel like doing, but instead, what would the greatest version of me do right now? You start tapping into a higher order of being. This is what most people miss. Success is not an achievement, it is a character. And you must become that character before the story rewards you. People think purpose is something you find. But purpose is not found in books or seminars or social media reels. Purpose is revealed through movement. You find it when your actions align with your soul. Purpose is when your gift meets the world's need, when your scars become your story, when your pain becomes your platform. You think the world doesn't need you? You think your struggle was meaningless? Let me tell you something. Every time you thought it was over, and you kept going, you built a chapter someone else needs to read. Every time you wanted to quit but didn't, you became the proof for someone who's about to give up. Don't waste your wounds. Don't bury your brilliance. Don't shrink yourself just because it makes others more comfortable. Because this world doesn't need another copy. It needs the original version of you, the version that wakes up with fire, with conviction, with the kind of vision that makes people nervous because they've never seen someone burn like that before. Discipline is what turns that fire into fuel. Anyone can feel inspired at midnight, but only the disciplined execute at 5 a.m. Anyone can make a plan, but only the disciplined make progress. Discipline is when the dream becomes a demand. It's what separates those who wish from those who win. It's the daily battle against distraction, against weakness, against the version of you that wants to stay safe and invisible. You must understand this. Every act of discipline is a vote for the man you're becoming. Every time you say no to comfort, you are casting a ballot for greatness, because the future is not created by emotion, it is created by repetition. Ask Kobe. Ask Jordan. Ask anyone who's ever worn excellence like a second skin. They weren't the most gifted. They were the most obsessed. Obsessed with mastery. Obsessed with doing the reps when no one was clapping. Obsessed with earning the right to be called elite. The world gives its rewards to those who keep showing up after the feeling is gone. And while others wait for opportunity to knock, the disciplined are building the door, brick by brick, sweat by sweat, choice by choice. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. And that becoming begins with one decision. Action is the language of belief. It is the only proof the world respects. You can dream, you can journal, you can pray and meditate and visualize. But without action, relentless, uncomfortable, disciplined action, those dreams are graves for what could have been. A man does not become powerful because he thinks powerful thoughts. He becomes powerful when he acts like it. The world is full of thinkers who never moved, dreamers who never dared, intellectuals who died unknown. Because they waited for perfection, waited for permission, waited for someone to notice them, and in that waiting, they wasted. But the one who decides to act, decides to move, decides to build while the voices laugh, he becomes the architect of his destiny. Ford did not wait for the blueprint. He built the blueprint. Disney did not wait for investors. He drew castles in the dust. Harriet Tubman did not wait for laws to change. She moved through the darkness, deciding that freedom was not a luxury, it was a calling. Action is a declaration. It says to the world, I will not be moved by fear. I will move through it. You don't rise by knowing everything. You rise by taking the next right step when it's terrifying. You rise by choosing movement over perfection. You rise by bleeding in silence and still showing up like a giant. And if you fall, you rise again. Not because it's easy, but because it's required. Every day you hesitate, your dream gets further. Every day you stall, someone else builds what was meant for you. You want to know why most people stay stuck? Because they keep negotiating with their potential. Because they keep making decisions based on who they've been instead of who they could become. There is no momentum in waiting. There is no destiny in delay. You are one move away from changing the entire course of your life, but that move will not feel safe. It will not feel easy. It will require courage you haven't used before. That's the cost. That's the price of entry into the life you say you want. And once you've made that move, once you've crossed that threshold of fear, you will realize that the prison was never real. The chains were forged in your mind, and freedom was always waiting just past the edge of comfort. Now listen closely. Gratitude is not weakness. It is power. It is fuel. It is the lens that magnifies your strength in the darkest hour. Because there will be nights when nothing makes sense, when you've given everything and the world has not clapped once, when your bank account mocks your ambition, when your phone is silent, when your friends are gone, when your knees are bleeding and your hands are calloused and you question if the climb is even worth it. That's when gratitude becomes your weapon. That's when you look at the sky and say, thank you for the fire, thank you for the pain, thank you for shaping me into someone no comfort ever could. Gratitude does not mean you settle. It means you sharpen. It means you say, this valley is making me dangerous. The men who rise do not wait for easy. They learn to love hard. They train their minds to find power in every hardship, because they know that what breaks most men only builds them. Resilience is not a feeling. Resilience is a code. It is a way of life. It is the understanding that storms don't come to stop you. They come to forge you. That life isn't testing your dream. It's testing you. And those tests will come again and again. You'll be hit when you least expect it. A betrayal, a failure, a collapse of something you built with love. But hear this. The man who refuses to fold becomes a force that cannot be denied. You may bend, you may stumble, but if you decide, truly decide, that nothing will stop you, then nothing ever will. Your strength is not in how loud you shout when you win. It's in how quietly you rebuild when no one is watching. Every champion has faced defeat. Every giant has fallen. But they got up, and when they got up, they were no longer the same man. They had fire in their lungs, thunder in their blood, a voice in their soul that said, you can't break me, you can only build me. That's the man you're becoming. That's the man your enemies fear. That's the man your legacy demands. And what about growth? You don't grow by knowing. You grow by changing. Growth demands ego death. It demands that you stop worshiping your comfort zone like a god. It demands that you leave behind who you were so you can become who you must. Most people don't grow because they're addicted to certainty. They'd rather be right than free. They'd rather stay familiar than evolve. But not you. You were built for the stretch, built for the pressure, built for the seasons of discomfort that carve kings from clay. You are not the same man you were last year, and that is good. That means the work is working. That means the storm is shaping you. Never apologize for outgrowing those who refuse to grow with you. Your future is screaming, not whispering, screaming for a version of you that isn't held back by the opinions of small minds or the fears of yesterday. So evolve. Upgrade your circle. Upgrade your habits. Upgrade your standards until the man in the mirror finally reflects the king that's always been inside.